Let's start this module by asking a very simple question. What's actually working in your store? Which products are truly driving your revenue? Where are your customers dropping off? What pages are they spending time on? And what sources of traffic are actually converting? So, if you're not sure, that's exactly why this module exists. Because in today's e commerce world, guessing is expensive, and relying on gut feeling or vanity metrics is a great way to burn cash and stall growth. The businesses that grow fast, stay profitable, and build loyal customers all have one thing in common: they're not flying blind, they use data to drive decisions. Now I get it. Analytics can feel overwhelming, especially if you have ever opened Google Analytics and felt like you've just stepped into a cockpit full of buttons. Bounce rate, sessions, acquisition reports, real time data, conversions, goals. I know it can be a lot. But here is the truth: you don't need to be a data scientist to use data powerfully. What you need is clarity. You need to know what to look for, how to measure, what matters, and how to turn insights into action. And that's exactly what we are going to do in this module. We are going to break down analytics into simple, usable parts, starting with one foundation, which is Google Analytics, or you can also say GA4. So whether you're using Shopify, WooCommerce, or any other e-commerce platform, GA4 gives you the ability to track everything from product views to purchases, from cart abandonment to checkout steps, from where users came from to what they do after landing on your site. And the reason GA4 is so powerful and so different from what came before is because it's event based. That means it doesn't just look at page views or sessions like old school analytics did. It looks at interactions, every click, every scroll, add to cart, checkout step. All of it is treated as an event. And that gives you much more flexibility and control over what you measure, how you define conversions, and how you optimize. So, let's talk about why this matters at a bigger level. In the early days of launching a store, you're often making guesses. You pick a product, you write a description, you choose a theme, you set a price, and then you cross your fingers. But at some point, guesswork is not enough, right? You need to know what pages are driving people to add to cart, what sources are bringing the highest converting visitors, where are people bouncing off. That's the difference between hoping your store will grow and actually engineering its growth. And that shift is a mindset shift from hoping to engineering. And that's where analytics becomes your best friend. So I'm sure many of you might be wondering that why GA4? Why not just rely on your Shopify dashboard or plugin analytics? And that's a fair question. Most platforms do give you a basic metrics like revenue, traffic orders, but what they don't give you is behavioral insight. Shopify might tell you someone bought. GA4 can tell you what they did before they bought, what they clicked, what pages they visited, where they came from, and how long they stayed, what they ignored. So that's a gold mine if you're serious about conversion optimization. Another big reason to use GA4, it's future proof. The world of analytics is changing with cookie restrictions, privacy updates, and data policies evolving rapidly. GA4 is built to handle this new era. It's not just about tracking, it's about tracking responsibility and responsibly and in a way that respects user privacy while still giving you deep business insights. So, in this module, we are going to go step by step. First, we'll cover how to set up GA4 correctly, whether you're using Shopify or WooCommerce or integrating with GTM, which is Google Tag Manager. Then we'll dig into key events, conversions, and how to use funnel reports to understand where your store is leaking potential revenue. We'll also talk about how to identify your best performing products and pages, and finally, how to actually use that data to make decisions. So, whether you're just starting out or already running a decent volume of orders, this module will give you a clear roadmap on how to read your store like a dashboard. So not just with page views and sessions, but with real understanding of what's happening, why it is happening, and what to do next. Because let me tell you again a truth: you can't grow what you can't measure. You can spend lakhs on traffic, you can design beautiful landing pages, you can write clever copy, but if you're not tracking the right signals, you're playing blindfolded. Analytics is not just a nice to have, um, it's your e-commerce GPS. And in this module we are going to teach you how to use it, not like a data analyst, but like a smart business owner who wants to grow with intention. Now let's zoom out for a second and think about why this shift to data is so important, especially in 2025. In the past, a great product and a clean looking website could take you pretty far. But now, everyone has access to good looking themes. Everyone has access to global suppliers. Everyone can launch an ad. So, what separates the store that scales from one that stalls? It's not just the product, it's not just the creative, it's the feedback loop. The stores that win today are the ones that learn faster. They launch, test, measure, tweak, and improve. And then they do it all again. They don't guess. They know what their top three traffic sources are. They know which landing page has the highest bounce rate. They know what time of day drives the most purchases. And they know how to double down when something works. That's not luck, that's sheer data. And GA4 gives you that feedback loop, not in the form of complex dashboards, but in signals, behavior signals, drop off signals, value signals, things you can actually count on. And so let me give you a simple analogy behind it. Imagine driving a car with no dashboard. You can't see your speed. You don't know if you're low on fuel. You have no idea if the engine's overheating. You are just guessing based on how it feels. Now, maybe you're a good driver, but without the dashboard, you're always guessing. That's how most e commerce owners are operating today. And that's why so many stall after the initial growth phase. They don't know what's going wrong or even what's going right. Now, let's say you have a dashboard, but it's cluttered, dials everywhere, you don't know what to look at. That's how most people feel when they open GA4 for the first time. So, the goal here is not to just have analytics, it's to understand what to look for. It's about identifying what actually matters for growth and ignoring the noise. So, for example, people obsess over bounce rate. But if someone lands on your product page, reads everything, clicks through to checkout, and buys, and then leaves, technically, that's a bounce. So, was that a bad session? Of course not, right? What matters is not just that they left, but what they did while they were here. That's why we are going to look beyond surface level metrics and dig into based in event based insights. I'll give you another example of it. Say you notice that 70% of your visitors drop off before reaching checkout. Now, most people panic at that number, right? But if you go dig deeper with GA4, maybe you find out that users from Instagram stories are dropping off more than users from Google search. Or maybe people on mobile are abandoning at a higher rate than desktop users. That kind of insight doesn't just tell you what's wrong, it tells you where to fix it. And what's the whole point of analytics if not to drown you into numbers, but to focus into action, so that you can identify the one or two levers that move your business forward and build a habit of tracking them weekly. So you'll outpace 90% of your competition once you start following GA4 into a very deeper level. And also not because you're working harder, but because you're learning faster. And a final mindset shift before we dive into the technical stuff. Don't just think of analytics as a reporting tool, think of it as a growth engine, because every insight is a decision waiting to happen. Once you start viewing your GA4 reports as decision fuel, not just data, the whole game changes. So that's foundation. In this module, we're not here to memorize terminology or study charts. We're here to build confidence. We are going to set up GA4, understand the events that matter, track real behavior, and learn how to interpret that data so you can make smarter calls, whether it's tweaking a landing page, testing a new price point, or fixing a leaky funnel. This is where the guessing ends and the real growth begins. Let's now talk about setting up Google Analytics for your online store. Because without this, you're just running blind. Whether you're just using Shopify or WooCommerce, GA4 is what helps you track what visitors are doing on your site, where they came from, what they clicked, how far they went in the buying journey, and whether they dropped off or made a purchase. So let's start with Shopify. First, you go to analytics.google.com and create a new GA4 property. Once you have done that, you'll get a measurement ID. Think of it like your tracking code. Then you'll need to install GTM, which is Google Tag Manager, on your Shopify store, which involves copying two pieces of code into your store's theme file, one in the head and one in the body. This lets GA4 connect with your store and start tracking basic actions like page views. But we don't just want page views, we want to track real things that show buying intent. Like when someone views a product, adds it to the cart, starts checkout, and actually completes the order. So inside Google Tag Manager, you'll create new tags for each of these actions. For example, a tag for add to cart, a tag for begin checkout, and so on, and link them into the right triggers based on what people are doing on your site. It might sound technical, but once you set it up, it runs in the background. You can also use tools like Eliver or pre-built Shopify apps to make this faster if you don't want to do it manually. So now let's move to WooCommerce. The setup is very much similar, but here you can use a plugin like Monster Insights or SiteKit by Google, which lets you connect your store to GA4 by simply pasting a measurement. If you want more detailed tracking, you can install GTM on your WordPress site using a plugin like GTM for WordPress. Once that's in place, you follow the same steps, create tags for product views, add to carts, purchases, and more, and set up the right triggers. So now here is one mistake which most people make. They stop at page views and purchases. But that's not enough. You need to track the full journey, the micro step that tells you whether someone is interested or confused. For example, maybe people are viewing your products but not adding anything to the cart. That tells your product page is not convincing enough. Or maybe they're reaching a checkout but dropping off. Maybe your shipping charges are too high. You'll never know unless you track the in between steps. And once your tracking is set, always test it. Open your site, perform the actions yourself, like adding a product to cart or going to checkout, and see if those events show up in GA4's real time report. If they don't, go back and fix. If they don't show you, go back and fix the tags. Also use tag managers preview mode to double check what's firing and when. It's better to spend 1 hour setting this up properly than spend weeks looking at broken data. So the bottom line is this: setting up GA4 is not about being perfect or technical. It's about making sure your store is telling you the truth. Because once the tracking is accurate, the data you'll get will help you grow faster, spend smarter, and fix what's broken. So, in the next part, we'll learn how to mark key events as conversions and start building funnels. But first, make sure this setup is done right because everything else depends on it. Once the basic setup of GA4 is in place, the next big step is to start treating your data as a system that works for you, not just something that there is in the background. And this really begins by understanding what the events inside GA4 are actually telling you. So now GA4 is event based, which means everything is treated as an action: a page view, a scroll, a click, an add to cart, even a video play. These are all separate signals. Your job is to decide which signals matter to you. For an e-commerce business, we usually care about a few key events. Someone viewed a product, added to cart, started checkout, and completed a purchase. But there are other helpful ones too, like how long someone stayed on a page, whether they clicked a product image to zoom in, or whether they clicked through different variants like size or color. These actions might feel very small to you, but they tell you a lot about user interest. If someone clicks on two color variants and spends 30 seconds looking at the photos, that's a sign of interest. If they bounce off in 5 seconds, that's a red flag. And you can capture that kind of behavior through custom events in GA4, which are surprisingly powerful. Once you understand how to use them, uh, life would be very easy for you as an e-commerce owner. So for example, let's say you want to track how many people are clicking your size guide. That might not be a default event, but you can add it easily using Google Tag Manager by setting a trigger on that specific link and creating a custom event called something like size guide click. Then inside GA4, you'll start seeing data on how many visitors are using the size guide. So now, why does this matter? Because if very few people are clicking it, maybe your sizing is intuitive. But if a huge percentage is clicking it, that's a signal that your customers are unsure. And maybe it is worth testing a more visible or simplified size explanation directly on the product page. This is how small insights lead to real improvements. You're not guessing anymore, you're following behavior. Let's take another example here. Imagine you see that a lot of people are adding items to cart, but very few are initiating checkout. That gap is very critical. So, what's happening between the cart and checkout that's scaring people off? Is the shipping charge too high? Is the delivery time unclear? Is there no guest checkout option? Without GA4, you would not even know that there is a gap. With GA4, you can spot it and fix it. And all of this depends on your events being properly defined. GA4 automatically tracks some basic ones like page views, scrolls, outbound link clicks, and site search terms. But anything specific to your product experience, like clicks on add to wish list or interactions with your filters, needs to be set up manually. So that's where Google Tag Manager is your best friend. It lets you set up those extra layers without touching your site code every time. So now, once you have got the event tracking right, the next step is making the most important ones and conversions. This helps GA4 prioritize those events in your reports. You simply go to the events section, flip the conversion toggle on for events like purchase or begin checkout, and now GA4 will show you how many people are taking those actions in different segments of your traffic. So, for example, you can compare how many people from Instagram actually completes a purchase versus how many from Google search just browse and leave. And this is where GA4 gets really interesting. Not just tracking actions, but helping you understand which channels and which pages drive those actions. So you can filter your reports to see which products lead to the most add to cart events or which blog posts are sending traffic to high converting product pages. So maybe you have an article that ranks for best face creams for summer, and it's quietly driving hundreds of people every week to your sunscreen product. That insight alone might inspire you to write some more content around skincare seasons. Or maybe you find that visitors from email have a much higher conversion rate than visitors from social media. That could mean your email list is fully full of warm leads, people who already trust your brand, while your social media traffic is still cold. So maybe instead of pouring more money into ads, you double down on your email nurture sequence. This is how GA4 stops being a reporting tool and starts becoming a growth tool. But for that to happen, you need to get familiar with one of the most powerful features in GA4, which is explorations. Explorations let you build custom reports, funnels, and path based on your actual user behavior. So let's say you want to know how many people viewed a product, clicked a review, added the product to cart, and then bounced. You can build that path inside GA4 exploration tab and see the exact drop off at each step. You can also filter it down only mobile users or only traffic from Bangalore or only people who visited in the last 7 days. It's that flexible, it's visual, and it gives you a much deeper layer of insight than the default reports. You can even compare multiple funnels, for example, compare the checkout process on desktop versus mobile and see where each one drops. Maybe you find that mobile users drop off more often on the payment step. That could signal a poor mobile UI or a payment gateway issue. These are not just analytic insights, these are decisions waiting to happen. And the beauty is, you don't need to be a data scientist to use this. You just need to be curious, ask questions like, where are people getting stuck? Which sources brings buyer, not just visitors? What pages are most dropping off from? And GA4 can help you answer every single question that you have. That's the real power of setting up GA4 properly. It gives you a microscope into your own customer journey. And once you build the habit of checking these insights weekly, not just like once a quarter, you'll find opportunities to improve that no tool or consultant could ever point out, because the answers are right there in your own data. GA4 is not about tracking for the sake of tracking. It's about building a system where your store starts talking back to you. It tells you what's working, what's weak, and what needs attention. And once that system is in place, everything from product decisions to ad targeting becomes more focused, more accurate, and less emotional. You don't have to debate whether something feels right. The numbers will tell you. So, by setting GA4 up properly and treating it like a core part of your business instead of your optional report, you give yourself an edge that compounds over time. Now that your GA4 is set up, your events are tracking properly, and you're making conversions also. The next big shift is using this data regularly to make better business decisions. And I don't mean just glancing at reports now and then. I mean building the habit of checking in every week, asking real questions, and using um, what you see to take action. So, for example, imagine you're seeing a consistent pattern where your product pages have good engagement. People scroll, click, maybe even zoom into images, but your add to cart rate is low. That might mean your pricing is not convincing, or maybe your shipping costs are not clear. On the other hand, if your add to cart rate is solid but checkout starts are weak, maybe your cart page feels confusing or has too many distractions. You can test these signs like moving the proceed to checkout button higher, removing distractions, or adding a progress bar. And GA4 will help you to see if those changes worked or not. Another thing which many people overlook is setting up custom dimensions and user properties. So, as an example, if you say you sell in multiple categories. Let's say men, grooming, hair care, and body care. You can tag each product with a category label and then track which category performs best. Or you could create a custom event that fires when someone engages with a specific product type, like hair oil, and later use that to segment users into interest group for retargeting. If you know someone who has viewed your hair care collection 4 times, that's a warm lead. You can sync that audience to Google Ads or Meta Ads and then show them into something more targeted. These little tweaks become very powerful when they're connected to action. Other feature I would encourage you to use is audiences. In GA4, audiences are groups of people who meet certain conditions. For instance, you can create an audience of people who added to cart but did not buy, or users who visited your site more than 3 times in a week. These can be synced to Google Ads and used for remarketing. But even inside GA4, they help you study specific types of behavior. You can ask how do repeat visitors behave compared to first timers? How do people who come from Instagram behave versus those who come from email? This level of analysis is gold, because you're not treating all the users same. You're learning what works best for different segments. And also, do not forget that GA4 shows real time data. So if you are running a campaign, you can see within seconds how people are reacting. If you launch a new product and send out an email, open your GA4 and check. Are people landing on the product page? Are they staying, clicking? Are they adding to cart? If not, you might need to tweak the page or the offer. And again, a small tip: create a dashboard view in GA4 for your key metrics: users, sessions, bounce rate, conversions, revenue, and top pages. Save this as your default view. So every time you log in, you're looking at the numbers that actually matter to you. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost. GA4 is deep, but if you stay focused on your goal, whether it's more sales, better engagement, or understanding where people drop off, it becomes much simpler. Over this time, this data will become second nature. You'll start noticing patterns without even trying, like certain days performing better, or traffic spikes when influencer post, or drop offs when a page loads slowly. And that's where analytic turns into strategy, not just numbers, but actions. So now that your GA4 is up and running, your foundation is solid and your data is meaningful. So the next thing is to turn this habit into a weekly ritual, because the store that understands its numbers is the one that survives, adapts, and grows fastest in today's digital world. Another feature which gets often missed in GA4 is the ability to track internal site search. And if you have a search bar on your website, this is one of the most honest windows into what your visitors are actually thinking. Because when someone uses that little search icon and types in a word or phrase, they're telling you what they want in their own language, not yours. And that's valuable. Setting this up in GA4 is very simple. Just go into the admin settings, enable enhanced measurement, and make sure your site search is toggled on. If you're using Shopify, the search partner is usually set as Q on WooCommerce. It might be S. So once it is tracking, GA4 will start collecting all the search terms users types in. And this opens up a gold mine of ideas. Imagine seeing that people are typing things like gift sets under 500 rupees, or face wash for teenage acne, or paraben free shampoo. These are not just product queries, these are insights into buyer intent. If 100 people are searching for gift sets and you're not currently highlighting them on your homepage, you're leaving money on the table. If people are using words like travel size, or combo pack, maybe you need to bundle your products more clearly. You can also spot trends over time, like if certain terms spike during seasonal events or holidays, which can help you plan your next campaign or inventory order. It also tells you where the gaps are. If people are searching for something you don't stock, let's say lip balm with SPF, and that term keeps popping up, maybe it is time to introduce that variant. Or maybe they're typing your brand name with a specific name, like natural uh, shampoo for dandruff, and that shows which concerns your audience connects with your product. Internal search is one of the few places where the customer writes the copy, and your job is to listen, learn, and adapt what you show them on the site. Even something simple like moving a popular item higher in search results, or creating a landing page for a top query, it can drive measurable results. It's not a flashy feature, but it's one of the most human ones in the analytics toolbox, because it is driven by what people really want.